Afternoon, folks. Hope you're all well. Thought I'd take advantage of, among other things, the first sunny day here in the countryside that we've had for quite a while, to talk a little bit more about, just the concept of reuse and reuse in artistic fields. And the one I want to talk about a little bit today comes from an experience I had last night. I have been spending times when I get home from the bookstore and I'm too tired to do anything else. Most of the time I'm all right to do something else, but when I'm too tired, I'll sit and watch an old a noir film on an online source I can get fairly easily on the web. And the one one I came across last night was particularly interesting. The thing is titled "Screaming Mimi." It was a film, a 1958 film that starred Anita Ekberg, the Swedish actress. And it's really quite a fascinating story for a number of reasons, and not the least of which being the reuse of music and how that reused music becomes, through the course of the film, varied, so that when it appears towards the end of the film, it's substantially different from where it was, from what it sounded like at the beginning of the film. And it's basically, I found this rather interesting because the first scene is basically a seaside or beach kind of thing, with the winds, the breakers, the waves breaking on the sand on the shoreline, and impressive waves. I think it was done in California. I think it was. But anyway, what's really interesting is that in this beach scene, the opening music for the film is actually also the opening movement for Leonard on the Waterfront, for which Leonard Bernstein wrote music. So, and I thought that was really interesting, that music that was written for a sort of a wharf docky type of set film was reused with another environment, which of course is water, which is a lot to do with water, being beaches. So I thought that was really quite interesting, and that piqued my curiosity. So I kept watching, and another aspect of this film is that I doubt this is the first time that bebop type jazz was featured in a film, but there's a significant time in this film that takes place in, basically was kind of a classy burlesque joint called the Madhouse, and I think it was down somewhere in San Francisco. But anyway, the house band was a jazz quartet made up of a drummer, a bassist, a guitarist, and a vibraphone player. Very, 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 very similar to what I was thinking of was like the modern jazz quartet. And if I'm remembering correctly, the vibraphonist's name is a Red Norvo, and apparently a couple of the MJQ members. I think I've got this fact straight. If I'm getting this, I'm sorry if I'm not getting this 100% right. I think one or two of the MJQ actually worked with Red Norvo in their early part of their career. But anyway, suffice it to say that the house band for this burlesque house, or the Madhouse, was essentially a bebop quartet. And the film goes on. There's several scenes in that. Anita Ekberg is one of the burlesque dancers. She does her stuff, and Gypsy Rose Lee. Oh yeah, and there's also a really nice allusion to the song "Blame It All on Mame," which some folks will know from Gilda, but also from the Shawshank Redemption. Which is sort of interesting there because that has to do with blaming someone and sort of a femme fatale type thing. But that's also sort of a neat reuse of this kind of, and I'm sure a subsequent reuse in the Shawshank Redemption. But anyway, towards the end of the film that we're talking about, which and I'm forgetting the Anita Ekberg. Well, anyway, at the end of the Anita Ekberg, Screaming Mimi, that was it. At the end of Screaming Mimi, the scene, the scene, the locale reverts back to the Pacific Ocean, and at the end, the music from the opening of The Waterfront and the opening of Screaming Mimi comes back, but orchestrated to include vibraphone, which I think is really sort of a neat example of another way that composers, and I bet the director too, the film director did too, could think of ways to take music from two different parts of a film and then at the end of a film somehow represent that music and that orchestration in a novel way. And I would very strongly recommend that particular film, Screaming Mimi. People take a look at that. It's really quite an interesting film. Oh, and Screaming Mimi, by the way, apparently that was that term originated from the First World War. I think it was one of the kinds of German shells that the Axis or the Germans would drop on the Allies had this terrible scream or screaming meem that would come through as it was headed towards wherever it was going to blow up at, and which is why they were called Screaming Mimi. Anyway, so reuse of material, a good film that I would recommend very highly. As a matter of fact, I would also recommend very highly Gilda if you've never seen that one. And also The Shawshank Redemption, if you've never seen that, all three of these are just super films. And I would recommend that you check these things out. And while you're watching films, do some listening too. And try to keep track of how music that was featured in one part of the film, when it comes back, is it the same? Is it different? And if so, how does the difference... could the difference perhaps be affected by the drama of the film? Interesting things to think about, reuse, creativity, all that kind of thing. I'm sure other people have noticed this. I just happened to notice it too, and thought maybe some of you guys might like to check out this film and maybe think a little bit about stuff like this while you're watching and while you're listening. Anyway, better get going for this time. Nice to see you all again, and we'll catch you later on, further on down the road. Bye for now.